Good evening, everyone, and welcome to Be the Media Huntington View, Episode 6. And tonight we are going to be discussing a very important issue, the Constitutional Convention, and we have a special guest with us tonight, Ms. Kathy. So my name is Jenny Lee, and tonight I'm joined with
Dina Beard. Hi.
Lisa McKenzie. Hi, everybody.
And I'm Kathy Sepsta.
Lori is, we're not sure if she's running a little late. She may or may not pop in while we're having our discussion tonight. But we got so much great feedback about what's in the mail last episode. We've decided to do it again real quick. So since the last time we brought you here, we have gotten in the mail a flyer for Dom Spada. And then this one came in for the entire Democratic ticket, but with a big picture of Mark Cuthbertson on it. But the back of it, it's for everybody. But it's his big picture. I think Lisa got one today, too.
Yeah. Can I show it?
Go ahead.
All right. What the heck?
Lisa got hers in the mail today.
There's mine. Thanks, Mark. Love your necklace.
Oh, my goodness. He's not one of our favorite ones that's running, that's for sure. I got another one from Doc Spencer. He's still wearing that stethoscope. I think he's running for the head doctor. This one's from Mr. Cuthbertson. He got another one. And this one is about Melissa Taverna, the bar that got shut down on New York Avenue. Yeah, he's using that in a flyer. Absolutely. Oh, another one for Tracy, Mark, and Emily. This one's about AAA bondings.
Oh, yay.
How much they've saved for us. And another for Dom. And, oh, Tracy. It happened to her. Her tax dollars were stolen, it says. I don't know what that's all about. I'll have to read. And another one, this one, for William Doc Spencer. I think he thinks he's running for a different position than he is. Okay, so all this came in just 1 week, okay? And I haven't seen any from the Republican ticket. What's missing here, ladies?
I don't see Chad's.
But Chad is all over. Chad is all over social media because I've seen a ton of his advertisements everywhere. I've actually seen he was on a bus stop. He was on a cab. I've definitely seen him reach out more than they've done more advertisement with this particular race than I've ever seen them do. I haven't received anything in the mail, but I've definitely seen his face primarily almost everywhere on social media.
Yeah, I saw one video.
Sign. I saw a big sign for them by the post office on Jericho.
Yeah. Yeah, one is there. Yeah,
and then we had the incident with the truck that kept getting Mark. I think they called it Corruptionson. Mark Corruptionson, Cuthbertson. Oh, they ripped it down twice now, not once but twice. So, but not only do we have an election going on locally, which is a very important election, so please definitely get out and vote on November 7th, but we also have another issue that's not getting enough playtime. So we invited Kathy here tonight to kind of make a very complicated issue less complicated. So Kathy, you want to talk a little bit about the seminars you went to for the Constitutional Convention, and maybe we could ask a bunch of questions?
Sure. I attended, I'm going to show you the flyer, at Marymount College, which is nearby to where I am in Newburgh, New York. And it was a panel discussion with 3 attorneys. One is the Orange County attorney. One is the, let's see, he was Langdon Chapman, the county attorney for Orange County, New York. Jeffrey Kahana is a PhD associate professor at Mount St. Mary College. And we had Henry Greenberg, who is an attorney practicing out of Albany, New York. And then also the panel was headed by Michael Fox, assistant professor at the Mount, to moderate the discussion. And basically what they did was they gave a little bit of a history as to what New York State does to change its constitution. And written into the Constitution of New York State is a provision that says every 20 years, the people will have the right to have, number one, a vote as to whether or not they require a state convention to be held. And if they vote yes, then the monies will be spent, tax monies, to support the delegates and anything that goes along with running the convention so that they can propose changes to the Constitution of New York State. And then they will be presented as a referendum on a subsequent ballot, usually 2 years later, when they will, we will get to then vote as to whether or not we want to agree with what the delegates have come up with. I was looking through my notes, and $16 million will be spent for the delegates and the expenses that they will incur while they are deliberating and coming up with changes to the New York State Constitution. Tens of millions of dollars are going to be spent on attorneys who the delegates will use as consultants as they debate whether or not they want to have certain things changed. Things to be aware of. Anything that is right now in the New York State Constitution is open for consideration by the delegates in terms of changing it. Nothing is sacred, nothing is protected, everything is up for negotiation and discussion. There is no guarantee that anything will be discussed, because people were saying, oh, well, we all want term limits, so that's going to be discussed. Well, not necessarily. If the delegates get in a room, they're going to say, well, we don't really want to talk about term limits, so they won't. And then the other thing he said one of the panelists said to be very concerned about is that the New York Constitution, the way it is written now, is filled, it's gigantic. If you look at it, the federal Constitution is like 12 pages long. New York State's Constitution is thousands of pages long. It's filled with compromises that have been made over the year because it's been in effect since the 1800s. They're not easily unraveled. So if you take one part and you say, we all don't like unfunded mandates. We want to get rid of New York State telling us we have to do things, and then they don't give us the localities the monies for doing it. Well, in the laws where that's written down, there are all kinds of compromises and agreements between this person and the other person and this party and that party. And it's not going to be very, very easy to unravel any of those things. So he said that a lot of those things are, you have to understand, they just can't go away ever. One of the examples he gave was the pensions. That's one of the ones that people are talking about a lot. New York State pensions, that the Constitutional Convention can do away with people's pensions. He said that probably could not ever happen because they were negotiated by collective bargaining. They were passed by the legislators to agree to it, and they are now protected by federal law. And so what the convention could possibly do is change the way state contracts are written so that collective bargaining is now no longer required. If they do away with the requirement for collective bargaining, they would do away with the need to have unions negotiating every contract. So that's something that possibly could happen.
So the yes or no vote is pretty much just to open it up for this panel to discuss.
Correct.
So anybody who is saying that you're going to get this or you're going to get that,
they don't really know.
They don't know because they haven't even come to the table to start the discussions yet.
This is just allowing them to have an election for delegates. So that's really what we're doing.
How will the delegates be selected?
The same way our representatives are now done. So it's through local districts elections by party lines. So I would say I want to become a delegate from my district. I would have to go to my local party I'm a registered Republican right now. I would go to the Republican Party and say, I want to be a delegate. They would say, okay, here, go around and get 3,000 signatures. No, I'm sorry, 1,000 signatures. Get 1,000 signatures from your party in your area, which is like an unbelievable amount of work to do. The only way you can really do it effectively is if you have the backing of the party, because they have workers to go out and get signatures for you. An independent person who doesn't have a party has to have I think that I heard it was 3,000 signatures because they don't have a party behind them. So that means you have to do triple the amount of work with nobody to support you. So basically they don't want independence.
So this is just like running for office, basically.
Absolutely. It's running for office, and it's you're getting money when you go, because they do pay you when you're a delegate because you're doing work.
So the delegates will most likely be the insiders that are part of the embedded politics already. So they won't be representing the people.
Pretty much. They're going to be representing the party that got them the job. Right. And it's a good 2-year job where you go into a room. They throw themselves part. I mean, the guy was describing some of the perks of being a delegate. You have gala events, and everybody goes to these hotels to meet together because you have to all get together. So it may as well be nice while you're there. So there's a lot of perks that go along with it. And it's a way for the parties to give payback to people who have been supportive of them through the years to make them a delegate. Now, at the end of the convention, they will come up with a document. And the document is then presented to the voters for approval or disapproval. So there's going to be another up and down vote. Now, in 1967, after they held the convention, it was one document that was presented to the state, and the vote was, do you agree with these changes to the Constitution? Yes or no? And the voters of New York said, no way. Absolutely no way. So it was a complete waste of time and money and effort because the voters said no. What they saw was that the flaw was having it all in one combined document. And so then the recommendation for future delegates was to put it into, let's have these 5 changes to the judiciary system, and these 5 changes to, or whatever number it is, these changes to how we elect, like we're going to have term limits, or these are budget changes that we're recommending, so they can categorize them, and then the voters can vote on each section rather than just one great big block vote of yes or no. Let me see what else. Oh, there was a question from the audience when I was there about the ballot, this ballot that's coming up in November. If the yes or no for having the convention is left blank, will that be counted as a yes vote? And that's false. It has to, you have to affirmatively mark your ballot yes, and that will be counted as a yes, or no, it will be counted as a no. If it's left blank, it's just a non-vote, and it won't be counted either way.
I had that wrong. I'm going to go ahead and admit that because I did think the opposite. That well,
there were many rumors being put out about that very specifically, and I think they're scaring people. A lot of the unions are against this, and the reasons the unions are against it is because the likelihood, well, like I said, it's not going to affect the pensions as they are right now. So if you hold the pension, it won't take your pension away from you, but it can, like New York City, there's a proposal right now for them to allow the city to borrow money from New York City pensions, the teachers and the firefighters and whatever, because there's money in there, and they said there's needs for people to have housing, so we should use that money and invest in housing so people would have housing. Excuse me, I paid into that my entire life. That's what I'm planning on living on for the next 20 years of my life. No, thank you. But that's one of the proposals that could come as part of this future of New York State, if that's allowed to be part of the one of the recommendations of the delegates, that they could borrow from future monies, not present pensions, but future pensions, that it could be general funds money rather than, put into a secure lockbox for us. I am a pension holder. The other thing that he was very clear about is that the state of New York is a progressive, moderate state. We tend to run middle of the road. We're not really a very, very liberal state, although we are progressive, but we're also not a very conservative state at all. And even the Republicans who run tend to be on the progressive side rather than the conservative side. So he said the likelihood that any recommendations that come out of the committee would be progressive, moderate kinds of changes to the New York State Convention Constitution. And they were, oh, yay, we're going to be getting more progressive. And I'm like, no, we don't want to get more progressive because it takes away the rights of people. And it doesn't protect our federal constitution rights that we are guaranteed by our Constitution. So that's my nutshell summary of our presentation that I went to. But if anybody has any questions, if they covered it, I'll be happy to answer.
I have a question, Kathy.
Sure.
This is so much information. My head is like, ooh. So I hope I asked the question right. I hope you understand what I'm trying to ask you. Okay. Maybe you could fill in the blanks. You had said that if this was voted for, yes, if, then the attorneys, the politicians, they would, sip their brandy and discuss on things that they want to make changes to. And then they may or may not come, they may come out like 2 years later for them to vote on. But the public, the regular laymen don't have anything to do with that, or do they? Do we?
They come up with a document about these are our recommendations. And like I said, they could put it into one document or they can break it into different sections. And that goes to the people for a vote. Okay. Whatever their recommendations are.
But it doesn't matter. You're never going to outvote New York City. And I have to apologize now. I can't fix my camera without ending the show. But so it's I know it's blurry. I've been trying to fix it and can't. But it's never going to outvote New York City ever.
That's absolutely right. And in fact, he even made that as a bragging comment. He said, the state of New York has only one time, has not since 2000 and let me see where I wrote it down. Since 2004, no one has won an election without the backing of New York City.
Can I ask another question? Yeah. My other question would be, if the attorneys and the politicians had all that power to make these, recommendations to give us, a vote, and the people have nothing to do with them coming up with what they choose, how is that constitutional or ethical or anything like that?
It's following the bylaws of the convention as it's set forth in the New York State Constitution. They say this is how you do it. You bring in delegates that are supposed to represent the people. However, they kind of have it rigged so that if you're not politically connected, you don't have any likelihood of becoming a delegate.
Yeah, they've already completely perverted the entire system to where it's a foregone conclusion. Once you see who's picked by the party,
yes,
pretty much guess who's won. Yeah.
Now, what he was saying historically, and this was really interesting. Back in the in the 1967, this is when he was talking about it. Okay, the delegates were nominated by the party using petitions. It used to be at that point that they were actually New York State legislators who were the delegates, because the legislative session ended on April the 2nd, 2067, and the convention began on 4/3/2019. I'm sorry, I said 2000. It's 1967. So they ended their one job on April 2nd, and they started their delegate job on April 3rd, and they worked till the end of the year as a delegate. And then when legislative session came back into effect, then they would stop being a delegate and would start being a legislator again. So they had it rigged so they could double dip. And after that convention, they said, oh, that's really not a good idea. You really shouldn't do that. So now the legislative session doesn't end with the budget voting on April 1st. It continues through the summer, and they don't end until July. So they can't double dip the way they had in the past. But
So
and they do this every, what, 30 years?
Every 20? Every 20 years.
Every 20.
Yep.
I feel like a yes vote is just taking a little bit something else from our freedom.
Mm-hmm.
Because this all just sounds, it's like an oxymoron. It just sounds so unconstitutional and so not for us.
It's not for the people. It's for the big government business that exists now in Albany. And
the ones with the big money chains around their neck.
They want it because it continues their power. I mean, the people who are supporting it are who? The present legislators in Albany and our governor.
Right.
I became aware of this when I started seeing stickers all over the cars, more in the teachers everywhere in all the parking lots. It's vote no, constitute, and I didn't understand what it meant, and I started asking around, and I think a lot of people don't realize, like, when you go to vote, you're gonna have to turn over that ballot, and there's a referendum. In fact, Kathy, you were saying there are 3 referendums.
There are 3. One is to have a constitutional convention. One is to allow them to use state forest land as parkland, and like they can sell more land and get money, and it's taking parkland away from the people, basically. And so I don't think they should do that. And the other one was, oh gosh, I don't remember what it is right now. But there are 3, and the Constitutional Convention is just one. But I was told by someone who works for the voting, I forget what you call them, but the Board of Elections, and they were told that they're being trained when people come in, say, make sure you turn it over and answer the questions on the back, because there are questions on the back. And you know, when you walk in, they usually have it hanging up what your ballot looks like. They're going to have it both sides so people can see. So they're going to be, you know, they don't want to. The way that the people who say vote no, they were, you know, fear mongering. There was a lot of that going on, and one of the things that they were saying is, if you don't vote, it counts as a yes anyway. And you know, they really want to fear people into making sure that they got the no vote. That's really what that was. But the person who works for the Board of Elections said no, they never want to just sneak things through. Everything's, as far as they're concerned, is on the up and up.
It's hard enough getting anybody to go to the ballot box in the first place.
Absolutely.
And then to turn it over. I mean, you know, the normal layperson, you know, are they going to read all of it? Because I'm sure they're going to word it to death. They're going to word it in such a way that you might not even have a clue to what it means.
It's a synopsis. It's a very, very brief statement.
Oh, good.
In order to to really understand what it is, you have to go to the real document. So that will be at the ballot. It won't be printed on the form, but it will be, the whole resolution is there for everybody to read. And it should be printed in the newspaper, and the League of Women Voters always has that on their website. So I always go to them before an election just to see what resolutions, because you never know what they're sneaking through. New York State is very sneaky and putting things on our ballots that we are not even aware of.
You think?
I'm trying to find the other 2 referendums for us. So yeah, this definitely sounds like voting yes is opening up a whole new can of worms.
It very possibly can open up a lot of things that we never even considered as being changed in New York, and things that we would want probably won't be even on their agenda. One of the things that I've heard people talking about as wanting to have a yes vote were people who wanted to separate New York City from the rest of New York State, to have a secession and to form two states.
Well, that's
New
not.
York
I mean,
City
that's
being
just
called
silly.
New York. Yeah,
That's just silly. That's that. I don't think any sane person would. I mean, that's so. I mean, you would have to be a special kind of unintelligent person to select that. I mean, that's.
Oh, there's a whole group of people out there, Dana. There's a whole, and it's actually a big thing. I found out about it last year, because when you think about the amount of money that Long Island pulls in and the density in New York, and then you think about what we send to Albany versus what we get back. We get like 75 cents on every dollar. And to be honest with you, I have to say our legislators aren't fighting for us. They're not getting our money back. Yeah. So there is a lot of inequality here happening in regards to, you know, who makes the money and who pays more into the kitty and how that's going. And the people who are voting aren't really part of the people who are sending all that money to Albany. So there is a big problem trying to outbeat an election. Do you remember the Astorino map? The Astorino-Cuomo map? I mean, New York was lit up red except for a small little area up in upstate, and then New York City was all blue. But everybody else, it was Astorino land. He won like 90% of the counties.
Right. And right after the SAFE Act passed, people went around to every single sheriff and had the sheriffs and towns pass local agreements that they would not put people in jail for not registering their guns or whatever. They were going to ignore the SAFE Act. We have 63 counties in New York. 60 of them voted to get rid of the SAFE Act, or would not enforce the SAFE Act. 3 said yes. So that was, well, actually, no, it's not 3, but it was the 5 in New York, Nassau, Westchester, Albany, and Syracuse.
Wow.
Yeah.
Or Buffalo. I'm not sure if Syracuse or Buffalo, but one of the counties up there. The rest of the entire state voted, we don't want the SAFE Act. So the whole state is not being represented by Albany.
No, it's being represented by density, which is why we have the Electoral College on a federal level, because if not, California and New York would tell the entire country what to do.
How we're going to do it. Right. And now if they came up with some way for New York State to be more representative, like to have an electoral college in New York.
Per county or something.
County or something, yeah. But that's never going to change because...
Well, if you vote yes to the Constitutional Convention, and we get the right people who want to put in those types of policies.
There you go. But again, it's an if, maybe. You know, and personally, I would never vote for something that I have to pay for, and I have no control over any of what they're going to talk about and how they may impact my life. That's something that's not a good investment.
And you also got to take into consideration, New York we still haven't felt the effect of, you know, the Trump administration that wants to remove itself from all these federal programs by giving the power back to the state. But with that power comes the financial responsibility. So our state is going to be faced with looking at where they're going to have to cut and who they're going to have to cut to maintain the services that they want, because that money getting clipped after the tax plan goes through. So you got to take that into consideration too. What else are we're going to go bankrupt? Holy moly. I'm thinking about it.
Yeah, that's crazy. I don't understand how we're going to expect the states to pay for what I think you said it correctly. We're going to be bankrupt.
We're going to go bankrupt
in a short period of time.
Yep.
Governor Cuomo has already said that he wants to have single-payer health care in New York State and free college for everyone. Okay, so where is that money going to come from?
And the free college isn't really free that they have proposed to everyone in New York State. They made it they made it seem extremely glamorous. However, when you dive into the meat and potatoes, it is anything but glamorous. You're basically asking a 19-year-old who just got out of high school to make a decision if they're going to remain in one place for 5 years after they graduate.
Exactly.
How many kids flunk out the first year? I'm not saying that that's how it should be, but sometimes they, they go to the 4 year, then they have to go to the, back to a 2 year. So, and then if you break that, then you have to pay all this other stuff back, and it really doesn't apply to everybody. Because I have a daughter that is in Utica. Her tuition was last year it was $32,000. This year's $35,000.
Mm-hmm.
So what happened to the free tuition?
Exactly.
It's not free. It's not free.
It's being sold, but it's really not going to deliver.
And then these kids graduate in debt too. I think they're already behind the eight ball.
A whole lot of debt.
Yep.
A whole lot of debt.
Yes.
Wow.
A whole lot of debt, and it's unfair.
Whew.
So
Crazy.
God,
it's a lot to take in. First of all, it's a lot to take in because I'm still stuck on. We don't know. So basically, you want me to vote for something that we're all unsure about because we don't know who the delegates are going to be. We don't know what they're going to talk about. We don't know what they're going to propose. And based off of what we've seen in our local politicians, I personally would not want some of these people making any amendments to my constitution.
Mm-hmm.
Sorry. You know what I mean? So that's all. I don't like voting for anything that I'm unsure of. This, I'm just totally freaked out. Forget being unsure. I just don't understand because you basically want my vote to say yes and they're going to do whatever they want to do. No, I don't think so.
It's like going to court and having an attorney hand you a packet of papers and go, trust me, just sign here.
There you go. Yeah.
No, you don't have to read the 500 pages. Just
don't read anything.
Sign it. We will fill in those papers after for you.
Yeah, don't worry, sunshine. I got you.
Yeah.
Don't worry.
Exactly.
Yeah, we've heard that song before.
Yeah, definitely.
I don't want to. We don't need a repeat.
No.
It's a lot of information, but it's good information. People definitely need to be aware because, like you said, Lisa, who thinks to turn over the ballot?
Mm-hmm.
We hardly get people to get to the polling booth.
Exactly. I know.
Let alone turn over a ballot.
Kathy did say that they're training everyone to ask, but I mean, again, we're still look what we're relying on. So we know we know what we've got. We see it.
And some of the people at the polling booth, not the brightest apples in the bunch. So I don't know if they're going to remember. They make up their own rules. Some of them just really need to retire because it just, they don't focus. They get lost and it gets crazy. So I really don't feel comfortable relying on them to tell people, BTW, turn it over.
When I went to vote in the primaries for the reform where we were just writing in whoever, I had to leave my ballot behind and rip it up because I thought that I spelled one of my candidates that I wanted to write in wrong, and my phone was dying. So I left it in my car, and I'm like, no. I just have to go back to my car to get my phone to make sure that I'm spelling my write-in name right. But when I came back, they were like having a meeting about why I left. What? They're all gathered around the table, like, what do we do with our ballot? Like,
oh my God.
That's funny. The last time I had a write-in, all they had was these Sharpies, and there wasn't enough room for me to write the woman's name in the tiny little box with a Sharpie because it was, a thick line. So I went over the line. So my ballot was rejected. So I had to fill the whole thing out using a black pen instead of the Sharpie. So they had to find me a pen.
That's nice.
Very strange. Very strange.
That's extra, but that's New York for you. Gotta love it.
New York. So I do know a lot of information on the Article 5 convention as it affects the federal constitution, which is a whole other topic and completely different. But if you want to have a conversation about that sometime in the future, that would be interesting also.
Okay, we're not voting on that on November 7th
yet.
No,
we're not voting on that at all.
Yeah, because we were saying, you know, we actually wanted to come on tonight and slam some civics about it to tell people, expose them about what they really are. And I was a little angry about something that happened today, and we were going to chat about local politics, but this was something that I don't think, like I said before, isn't getting enough playtime. And the election is coming up, so we needed to get some really good, solid election information. And Kathy, you just really, thank you for everything.
You're welcome.
Thank you very much.
Just to let you know, I'm going to another informational meeting October 23rd, I believe it is, Monday the 23rd.
Okay.
So if I find out more information, I'll definitely let you know, and maybe I can come back and give you an update.
That would be great if you want to come back and give an update on that.
Yeah. That would be awesome. There's a lot of information that we need.
Yeah, they just like spewed it out, so I tried to condense it, but I'm available on Facebook. If anybody wants to, you know, contact me there, or, you know, pop me an email, whatever. I'm
you be careful with that. We have a lot of stalkers.
I get them, and I turn them off, so it's okay.
Okay.
I know how that goes. All right. Okay, I'm gonna say good night.
Good night.
Oh yes,
Okay?
and good. We're going to go back to dishing on our local stuff.
Absolutely.
So
okay,
we totally enjoyed having you on.
Kathy.
it was nice talking with you all.
Good
Nice
night.
talking with you as well.
Okay, have a good night.
Good night.
Okay, bye-bye.
Bye.
That was great information. It really is a lot to ingest, like she said. It's a lot.
Yeah.
And it just, oh, sorry, Kitty. Oh,
There she goes. Look what's running around. And I'm all blurry. I'm sorry. It's almost like every episode now we're going to say, guess which piece of equipment goes tonight? And
well,
for
you're better than
who?
a kaleidoscope, at least like that one episode where I used my iPad and I was just completely fuzzy. So you're not a kaleidoscope tonight.
So what else has been going on, ladies? We had some interesting social media things going on this week.
Yeah, so much.
Definitely. Oh.
We always have a lot going on.
So there's one thing I do want to go ahead and get some clarification about locally. We did an episode a couple of weeks ago on Governor Cuomo putting the 10 officers in the 10 schools.
Yes.
Okay, so I went to a PTA council today, and our superintendent spoke there. And there's been Newsday. I'm sure everyone saw the Newsday articles that's circulating, and pretty much, you know, Cuomo was out of his jurisdiction, and our school bucked back. We will not have what people are referring to as armed guards in Huntington High School. There will be no such thing. As a matter of fact, what I found out today, which was disturbing to me, was because I kept saying on all these blogs, like, School District 13, not that I want them to have anything either, but it seemed like there was more gang-related incidences over the last couple of years that would spur something like this in that school district as opposed to Huntington. I'm readily admitting we all share the same problems, but it didn't make sense to me that we were getting a trooper and they weren't. So come to find out, they were supposed to get the trooper, but they had a legislator lobbying to Cuomo to make sure that it didn't happen over in that school district because they needed to protect their real estate value. So we got it by default, and we've had to deal with the fallout after fixing our schools, after Jack Abrams and everything else. We got this, and it just seemed very, very wrong. And it's disappointing to me. It's very disappointing to me.
Who was the legislator who did it?
Well, he didn't say who the legislator was, but the question arose when I brought up School District 13. So it's fair to say that it wasn't Andrew Rea. Who are the other options?
Who are
your other options? I don't know. Who used to be at South Huntington?
Chad Lupinacci.
Chad Lupinacci. Okay. So I mean,
he's a state assembly though.
He's still a legislator. They make laws. Legislators make laws.
No, I'm getting it confused with something else. I'm getting totally confused with something else.
Oh, it's okay.
Yeah,
But,
I was thinking about two different things, but
it wasn't Frank Petrone. You know what I'm saying? It wasn't. It was. It was somebody. Was it
so
Carl? Carl Marcelino?
I don't think anybody's surprised that it was somebody, because let's face it, Cuomo didn't come up, he didn't wake up that morning and say, hey, I'm going to go throw these troopers in there. So, I mean, he may have given some of the districts like the 2-hour window, but somebody knew it was coming down the pipeline before that 2-hour window happened. There's no way you can tell me that that didn't happen. It's unfortunate that they would try to pit one school against the other.
I don't think they were trying to pit it. I think he was saying, look, just if you got to give it to Huntington, don't give it to us.
So you're basically pitting it, because why not give it to Huntington? Why not give it to you? What school is better? So you are pitting it. Actually, we don't really need it. They need it more. So you are putting one school against the other. I wouldn't understand. I mean, even though you're 3 and we're 13, we're all Huntington.
Right.
We all share the same exact issues, maybe on a different scale, but it's all the same exact issues. So why would one school district get it and not the other? And you're in one. I would never understand that.
And as an ex-board trustee, you know that this is not the jurisdiction of this person. Instead of saying, don't give it to me, give it to them, you said, don't give it to anybody. This is not your jurisdiction.
Right. That would have been the correct answer.
Correct.
And you would have to have enough, you would have to be bold enough to speak out. And let's face it, some of our politicians that we have are not that bold. I'm sorry. They'll just, they'll lay down and go down, or whatever it is that is more convenient, not to cause any disruption.
And up until now, I had nothing bad to say. I've been saying he's a really nice guy. It's really hard. I mean, he's not getting us the money back. He's, as much as I feel he could be, considering how high our taxes are. I have to tell you, Jim McGoldrick, he's rough to take, but he makes a lot of really valid points in regards to what he's talking about with how, he rides their ass. He's like, we want our money back. You got to get us sidewalks. You got to get this. His delivery sucks sometimes, but
yes, it does.
But no, because this, I see these things. Huntington Matters Facebook page is like the devil. There has been 2 incidences over the last 8 days of bad information coming off of that page. One of them is that we have armed guards in Huntington High School. We do not have armed guards in Huntington High School. That's one point I want to drive through. The other one was this woman wanted to start a home for special needs adults. There's not enough housing for, older, aging out children who need to be in a home but need to be close to their families. So she's starting this group home. She does Kids Plus. She's a very lovely woman. She's running a beautiful place, and they were spreading around on that page that it was she was opening up housing for drug infested den users and stuff. I mean, it's just, this is like, and they're talking about people with special needs. It's like, wow. Really? So, I mean, there's been a lot of just crap coming off of that page, and nobody does anything about it. But they ban people like, I can't even count on my hands and my feet how many people I know that have been banned off the page because they're too outspoken, like myself.
Who runs the page?
Well, what's interesting? I know the entire history there. Do you want me to tell you why they have the amount of membership they do, too?
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Okay. So, when Maggie was murdered, School District 3 had already been rallying against crime for a very long time, okay? And I started inboxing a bunch of people that you guys have, one of your high school students was murdered. You need to rally. And I couldn't find anybody with the balls to pick up the pitchforks and the bullhorn in School District 13. I asked many, many people. I'm not going to name names with that, but I'm about to name a few names. I finally got to Mary Beth Crace, who said she would start an event on Facebook. So this is how the whole inception of Huntington Matters started. So Mary Beth, a self-proclaimed social media queen,
The
put
most
out
famous
this
woman in
most,
Huntington.
most infamous woman. She puts up this event, and we got so many people down at town hall, and I'm talking about people that don't understand how government runs. Robert's Rules of Orders don't make sense to them. All they wanted to know is why we had 4 dead bodies and nobody was doing anything about it. And Maggie was the final straw. So it was quite a crowd. And when you pull a crowd like that to a town board meeting, a group will form. So the first group it was about 13 of us. Jim McGoldrick was there. June was there. Xavier Palacios was there. Matt Harris, Mary Beth Craze, a lot of the typical suspects, as well as a few that were not so typical. Lacey, everybody knows Lacey from School District 13, love her. So there were 13 people who really just couldn't get their shit together, and nobody could decide who was going to speak for who, because we're all going to speak in one voice. So it was total chaos in the beginning, and I kept saying June would make a good leader. I can't lead this thing because I had my federal lawsuit pending against the town, and nobody wants me at their party. So I said June would be a good person in leadership. In fact, Lisa, you were part of the beginning as well.
I was.
And when it came down to trying to assign who's, that took a while. In the interim, Mary Beth made Huntington Matters. Now, Mary Beth has 2 Facebook accounts. She has one that she goes out and friends whoever will friend her from wherever or whatever, that she builds up. It has a picture of a Mickey Mouse on it. And she builds up, and I know this because I did this with her. So I know exactly what we did together. So she would keep this Mary Beth secondary account full of like 5,000 friends. And then she has her other Mary Beth account. So when you start a group, you can add people. Whether they like it or not, whether they know it or not, you can start the group and just add people. Add. So it doesn't mean that these are viable people who wanted to be here, which is one of the reasons why Huntington Matters had a very hard time getting started with their page, because nobody knew how they ended up being there. Nobody had requested to be there, and the place was just completely volatile. So from what I understand, Mary Beth is no longer an administrator. I don't think she's much part of the Huntington Matters group. I don't see the Huntington Matters really having meetings. What I do see is they have a Facebook page, one that's a group discussion that has so many people banned from it that there was another Facebook page that was created called Huntington Station Matters, where all the banned people from Huntington Matters went.
Okay? All the misfits.
Right. And then there's people that were banned from both.
Oh, Lord. Wait a minute.
Yeah, like that's, you want to know the true test of character of a person, give them an administrative button on Facebook and see what they do with it. So she added all these people. I think it was about 3,000 when I had left, that she left. And there were some people who were genuinely joining, but a good 70% of the original base of that Facebook page were not people who wanted to be there. They were people who were intentionally added to be there. So as far as who's running it now, I have been told by June Margolin, because she is the face of Huntington Matters, that they have an executive board. And their executive board includes Xavier Palacios, who's a school board member for Huntington School District, his wife, June, this woman, Dana Richter, who I think is a photographer, and Robert Rockline are the only administrators on the Facebook page now. Matt Harris is not involved in the group that I see. I never see Xavier anywhere. All I ever see is June. So I honestly believe at this point she's a one-woman show. And she's bulletin board for town events. Because if you go back to the Huntington Matters Facebook page, they take all the events in the community and they make them look like they're theirs. So it'll be like the Pickle Festival, and they'll put out an event for Huntington Matters says, invite you to the Pickle Fest. So they're doing this with all these events all over. Oh, look, there's going to be the debate on. If you go to their page right now and look, they're telling you about the debate that's happening tomorrow night, right, Lisa?
Right.
Tomorrow night in Elwood.
In
So,
Elwood Library tomorrow night.
right, but that's sponsored by the League of Women Voters. It's not yours. So why are you making the event for it, you know? So anyways, I don't know.
You want to get towards when, who, what, when, where, and why did they become a civic group and a Democratic page?
They're Democrats. They are an extension of the Democrats at this point.
But
There's no doubt about it.
That's not what a civic group is all about.
No, that's
So
not for the
when
people.
did that happen?
That's what happens. You know, civic groups get infiltrated. What they'll do is they'll silence their biggest voices first, and then they'll put people in position who do, or they play nice in the sandbox, or they, you know, they don't make noise. And people who don't make noise don't make change. I do see Jim Margolin down at I watch the town board meetings online. I see Rob Brockline, his heart, I believe, is in the right place.
Yeah.
I think he just keeps following around all the civic groups, which are really just, it's like one person running each civic group, pretending to be all these people. And it's
because
just,
you keep saying all these civic groups, and I'm trying to count in my head while you're talking.
Yeah.
What civic groups are there? I don't know.
Dina, there was a conversation on your Facebook page where the president of Preserving Elwood Now, Jim came in, okay, Jim Cameron, and because he was brought up in conversation about the Elwood vote with Tracy Edwards, and I think that post is still there, and I think it might even be public. I don't know. So if anybody wants to check it out, but he did. He came on there and he goes, "Wow, you guys are talking about me, and I'm not here, so I'm going to address some misinformation." And nothing was really misinformation. It was just two different perceptions of the same event. So, but he even said, I had here at my house 2 civic groups, Preserving Elwood Now, which in my house, who made Preserving Elwood Now was me, Steven Spooches. My husband was there, but think about how many people were here. Jim was here, and this woman by the name of Sue. So there were 5 of us. None of those people were, well, okay, so maybe Jim was a member of Elwood Taxpayers at that point, because he was saying the 2 civic groups, and he even said they were splintering. So Elwood Taxpayers and Preserving Elwood Now. So he runs Preserving Elwood Now, and he came to us from Elwood Taxpayers, but I never had groups of civics. I had 5 people in my house. So to put out some sort of perception that they're bigger than that, it's crazy to me. So Preserving Elwood Now is Jim.
Okay,
it's
so that's
Jim.
one group. Okay,
that's
so
one person, one group. Elwood Taxpayers, I believe I have heard that there was so much splintering after the Elwood vote that they have pretty much, my very good friend is on their email list. She hasn't gotten any emails from them. So I don't even know if they're active.
Okay, so who else is there? We have the
Greenlawn Civic.
Who's that?
It's this civic in Greenlawn, which I believe is run also by, but Rob Rockline is on that board also, from what I understand. All right, so who's else?
Okay, so who else? I'm waiting for you.
Greater Civic of Huntington?
The Greater Huntington Civic Group.
Greater Huntington.
Who's that?
That's just Steven Spooches. There's no meetings. There's no meetings.
Hold on. Hold the phone right now. Now, I usually don't interrupt anybody when they're talking. I generally try to wait until that person is done. However, who runs that group?
Steven Spooches. Now, that group was mine. I was kicked out of it. Listen to this. It was me, Steven, this woman named Lauren, and Nick that started this group, okay? And my husband, all right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Nick went and started the Huntingtonian. Lauren went back to being a mom, okay? So they went their ways. Then it was me and Steven and my husband, okay? Mm-hmm. We took on Jim from Preserving Elwood Now and this woman named Sue. So we're back to 5. It was 5 of us running the GHCG. Okay, we made Preserving Elwood Now, and Jim was holding a position with us and running Preserving Elwood Now. Okay, so it's still just one person. So they kicked me out, and they lost their balls, they lost their heart, and they definitely lost their spine. Then you have.
Okay, go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, go ahead. Go.
I'm just, for me, when you are running a civic and you have a checkered past, that makes me question what your civic actually stands for. That's one. Two, if you didn't originally start the civic, how do you just say, okay, bye-bye to the person who starts it, now I'm the leader? I'm sure there was paperwork because if I'm not mistaken, correct me if I'm wrong, it's a 501c3. So I'm sure there was some paperwork that had to exchange, or you just said...
No, they lost their 501c3. So Stephen now started this...
still taking donations.
Come again, say what? I didn't hear you. What'd you say, Lisa?
While still taking and asking for donations.
Oh.
You forgot about that, right?
But they were taking money for the greater civic, I guess.
But Stephen went and started a new civic group.
Right.
Oh,
but
so we have
it's
another
called
one.
the United Civics of Huntington.
United, that's right.
So he's now basically saying, I'm in charge of these 5 other people.
Right, but don't send money to United. Send me money still to the Greater Huntington.
Right, so that I can back and endorse political candidates as a pretend nonprofit civic speaking for the people.
Right.
Well, you just said the key word was that it was united. I just want to make sure, because this is a very touchy subject for me, for many reasons. You know, we've had many conversations. I don't speak ill about people's personal business. I'm really just with the facts. He rubs me the wrong way. He says things that are insensitive, and he comes across as a bully. So for him to stand behind anything that is united, I would have to say, come on. That's like if I ask my kid who's 6, did you brush your teeth before you went to bed? And I still see all the dinner on his face. And he's like, yeah, I did. No, I don't believe you. You know, and the climate that we're in right now, let's just call it the spade a spade. The racial climate that we are in, the uncertainty that the world is in, just with the back and forth with the White House, we need somebody that's going to be a little solid, that maybe when you use the word unite, you really mean to unite, not to unite and then try to divide and conquer, because that's what the plan is. And you need to be able to accept and include everyone. And I'm not just talking about your race. I'm talking about your social class. I'm talking about your economic class. I'm talking about your religion. I'm talking about your gender. I'm talking about everything. And if you cannot do that, then you don't need to be in a group named United anything. Unless it's United, we hate everybody, then that's another thing. You can always do that. That's an option. But United anything else? I don't know. It really boils my buttons the way, the more information, the more live streams we do, the more people contact us, the more information we get. And it really burns my buttons that more people are not involved in the everyday politics that take place in our town. Mm-hmm. And you have people that speak for you that if you saw them in the street wouldn't even speak to you. So if you can't speak to me, how can you speak for me? You don't know what I want. You don't know what I need because you've never spoken to me. And I'm sorry, if you're having an event at a country club, okay?
In another county, in Nassau County, and charging limousine prices. Like, what? How much was that ticket?
$300. It
was like if you're and Lisa, you were saying like it was a different price if you were a member.
But how do you find out what a member was?
I can't even be a member. You kicked me out of all the groups.
How much was membership? I tried to ask
no answer.
Just on Facebook how much was membership, and I got a shit from everybody else because all I did was ask a question about how much is membership.
He unfriended me after that.
I still didn't get an answer, by the way. No one has ever answered me on how much is membership, where do I sign up, and who do I pay? I've never, ever gotten an answer. Just a bunch of crap.
And then these are the people that are going behind closed doors, making meetings, saying that they're
Right. And
speaking
endorsing
this one.
candidates
And endorsing
and
candidates.
accepting money.
Like, who the hell they think they are? Because they got their name in the paper with the civic
Makes no
group.
sense.
You stole from the people. You
Makes
stole
no
the
sense.
civic group from the people, and then you go out and you pretend to speak for them. But it's the same. It's the same 20, 30 people showing up whenever you do have, like, after this election, they won't do anything. The best thing they had going for them was Daryl St. George.
Mm.
That's it. That's it.
Kind of
He
sounds
was
like a constitutional convention, doesn't it?
Yeah, a little bit. A little bit.
you know what's interesting? Daryl St. George reminded me of, on a national basis, the Bernie race. And I think Bernie was one of his heroes, but he ended up being somebody who brought new people to the table. And then when he lost the primary, he went and endorsed the person that he said he wasn't supporting to begin with. So it played out just like it does nationally.
Yep.
It's crazy because Bernie did the same. Bernie went on and then endorsed Hillary afterwards. So that's why I am like, he's Huntington's Bernie Sanders.
I mean, I think when it came to, I think he was more pressured into that endorsement because it didn't come immediately, and he received a lot of flack. I don't know much about St. George because he definitely threw me off when he kept referring to men as being the people in charge and using the term right people. So I didn't really pay much attention to him because clearly we weren't on the same page. However, I do know that endorsement did not come out immediately. And I think it was more of just being politically correct, just in case he wanted to have another run in the future at any political office. Let me play the game fairly.
No,
I think that's what it was.
No. You guys are missing the wild card. The wild card is Susan Berlin getting elected to the 17th district after this election, leaving us a seat that they now get to appoint.
Susan Berlin
she's the biggest fucking joke on the planet. She really is. I can't wait till she goes to legislature.
Susie the skank.
They are not going to tolerate her nonsense. Right now, she's big fish, little pond. She's going to be a little fish in a big pond, and they are not going to tolerate her nonsense. So I say, enjoy, Susie. I mean, I wish we got Hector, but
let me share a quick story with you guys. Now, Susan and I, we go to the same nail salon, and this was recent. This was like, because my daughter was going back to school.
Show me your nails.
Yeah. We go to the same, and these are real, by the way. I just had to throw that in there. We go to the same nail technician. Now, everyone knows that I'm outspoken, but when we deal with politics, it's politics. If I see you in the street, I'm not going to start talking about politics with you unless I know you. And then it will be a comfortable and relaxed atmosphere. If you're just, like, if I see Doc Spencer in the street, I don't say, well, what do you think about that? He's in the street, he's walking, he's minding his business. It's simply, how you doing? How's everything? And I'll go about my business.
Hi, good to see you.
And that's it. And I go. Now, this particular instance, she comes in. Now, my back is to her, so I can't see. So she's talking, and she comes over to look at me, but I'm sitting like this, so I'm not making any direct eye contact because it's just awkward how she's doing it. So then she goes and she's like, oh, Helen, who was doing my nails, she was like, I have a 2:00 appointment. So she expected Helen to stop what she was doing because she was Susan Berlin. And that wasn't, well, we all know that's not going to happen because there's two things that I always make sure my hair and nails are done. So she was going to have to wait either way, but that's another story. But her daughter actually didn't make the appointment. So they only had one appointment. That's why my appointment was put in. All this time, she doesn't say anything. And then she comes back and she's like, okay, Helen, I'll make another appointment. Standing right next to me, doesn't say a word. Goes back to her daughter who's in the pedicure chair, soaking her feet, and whispers to her. Comes back, says, okay, Helen, bye, I'm going to leave. Goes to her car. Now, this is when I said, Jesus, take the wheel, please. Comes back into the nail salon with a handful of emery boards and says, I'm running for county legislator. You could give these out to people. I don't know if they'll vote for me or not, but just give it out. And places it next to me. Never says a word. Never says hi, never says excuse me, but places the Emory boards right next to me. And I just said, what a character. But to add, to make me, to allow me to see her true character, her daughter comes and sits right next to me and has a complete conversation. Very, very casual, very open. She's very sweet. She was asking me 1,000 questions. We were talking about school. Total opposite, very down to earth. She said, I can't wait to see you the next time. And then I left.
You know, it's not like Susan doesn't know who you are.
It was very, to say the least. But when your daughter has more maturity than you do, and you want to run for something that I live in, I have to question that. I don't really have anything to say about Susan because to me, I don't like her politically. And now as a person, she has definitely rubbed me the wrong way, but I've never had anything negative to say about her. And I'm not saying anything negative now. What I am saying is that it makes me question your ability as a politician if you cannot acknowledge the people that you're trying to govern. To me, that's a big deal. I don't know if I want her running something where if I see you, you can't say hi. I don't think that, I don't know, but I don't think that's the way you're supposed to do it. Yeah. So she's interesting. That's what I say. She's interesting.
That's not the verb I got.
And I'm sure she charged those taxpayers again for her mileage to get to her little nail appointment.
Well, yeah.
I don't. Okay. I just, I think it really just bothers me. The more information we get, the more shows that we do, it really bothers me how things are run in this town and how things are so backhanded.
I mean, but it's all corrupt. I mean, that's like we had Kathy on. The delegates for the Constitution, it's going to be political insiders and there's going to be strife over it. Mm-hmm. You already know, because it's just like how elections work. The civic groups are corrupt. It's 5 jokes running around town pretending to be 500, and 2 of them are political at this point. Huntington Matters is totally Team Democrat, and I think whatever the United thing is totally lost after their only favored candidate lost, and they don't know what to do now. There's nowhere for people to go. There's nowhere for them to get solid information.
It's sad. It's sad because I'm going to be very honest. I've been a Republican since, I was 18, since I signed that paper. My parents both joked that I was a Republican probably in my mother's womb because I was just that. I got to follow the rules. After these last few months of the things that I'm hearing and the things that I'm seeing, it makes you really question the party that you belong to. Mm-hmm. Because while you identify with the ideologies of the party and you identify with the foundation of the party and you have the same core values, when the representation is so damaged and no one is fixing it, no one's making an attempt to fix it, and then when you speak ill of it, you get the backlash or blackball. Perhaps that shouldn't be the party that you're in then.
Dana, that's what blows my mind about the Huntington Republican Party is they would rather label people who say your party is broken, you need to fix it. They call us names instead of fixing their party and getting rid of this old bad leadership that doesn't get Republicans elected. You mark my words. Republicans will not get elected in November, regardless of who. We're going to come on. We're going to have a lot to talk about next week because we're going to have the debates that we can talk about because I know we're all going to go. Dana, yours is the NAACP one is October 19th, right?
Correct. Yes.
Okay. So we should probably do some special shows after on that. I think that we should do an endorsement show. Each one of us come on and talk about who we're going to vote for after we have watched both of those debates and we can make more. Because I got to tell you, I'm still struggling with just not having people on for supervisor and town board. I'm like, I can literally cast one vote and feel good for Emily, and that's it at this point. Everything else is lost. I mean, Mark Cuthbertson, he's flying completely under the radar.
And how many cross endorsements did he get? That makes me sick. I'm sorry. And no one talks about it enough.
Where's the ballot? Did you print the ballot?
What, this one?
No.
Oh, oh, sorry. Oh, this one?
Yes. Can you point out some important things on that? You'll have to talk so it goes to you. Talk about the judge one, please. Go ahead.
Okay. Without saying too much because it makes me nervous. The justice for the Supreme Court.
Show it. Show.
Judge, can you see it?
Yep.
Up, 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 up.
There is one. It's the county. Do you know that there's one that they're cross-endorsed by every party. You don't get a vote. You get the illusion of voting. Did you see that today, Dana?
Oh, here.
I did.
Where my finger is, right there. You see that name? Where is my finger?
Oh, really?
Oh, God almighty. Okay. Hold on. Let me try this again. Other hand. Oh, you see that little...
Oh, Stuart Besson. Stuart Besson.
Oh, Stuart Besson. I thought that's a Boyle.
See that one right there? My pointer finger?
Oh, yes, I see it. Yes, I see it.
Stuart Besson running for the 10th Judicial District for Supreme Court Judge. Are you kidding me? What the hell is wrong with people? Talk about corruption. Talk about corrupt person. That is it right there. That is
He's good friends with Mark. Mark and Besson are good friends. They were both council members on the town of Huntington.
And they're also very, very, very good friends with former Judge William Kent III, who rained terror on women and families and I'm going to say abusing children. Want to come after me with some details? I'd be happy to give them to you. It's not slander. It's not
It's documented. It's documented.
Documented. It is fact. Now, this man, if he wins for judgeship, is going to be deciding on children's best interests, children's lives, women and men, parents, adjudicating their relationships. This man, he has kept the mother of his children away for how many years? How many? Is 5 safe to say?
Yeah.
Is it not 5? Disgusting. Nothing but a parental alienator. He is a monster, in my opinion. When it comes to breaking up families, he's nothing but an alienator. But if you've ever been involved in the matrimonial courts or know anybody in the matrimonial courts, they consider a parental alienator a woman, like she's got PMS. But when a man, no man has ever been held accountable for alienating their children from their mothers.
Can you imagine, Dana, like New York State's the hardest state to get to take away custody from a woman. You literally have to be doing drugs, testing positive for drugs, and a convicted felon to get custody removed from a woman.
Not these days.
And this woman did nothing. Can you imagine having your kids just taken away?
No.
And you did nothing.
No, but here's the problem that I have. I hear what you guys are saying, and I understand about Mark Cusperson, I understand about Frank Petrone, I understand about Susan Berlin, and I understand what Jean was saying with the term limits. I get that. But at one point, do we start pointing to the finger at the people who have placed them in office? Where are the other people that are so outraged? Because I don't care what anyone says. There is a reason why this keeps happening, why these people remain in office time after time after time after time. So we as a people have to say, hey, it might be some corruption going on. I'm not saying it's not, but if you look at the polling numbers about who comes out in the election,
right,
and you don't even have half of the population.
22% on average.
That's how they stay in office.
Exactly. Like it's exactly voter apathy, because it only takes even 11% probably work at town hall.
So it's like No, so don't be. So when I hear these people get all excited about what's going on, and then you gradually ask the question, "Oh, have you? Oh, I don't vote in those things. It doesn't matter." What? Like, are you two? Even my 6-year-old knows the importance of voting.
And with that low of a voter turnout and all the cross endorsements, it's in the bag. They have it.
Yeah, that's what we meant to do before we went on a tangent about Benson. Show him the lines that Mark has. He's
Mark,
in. He's in.
Mark, where's Mark? Well, it says right here, Mark was cross-endorsed by all those lines.
Democratic, Independent, and Equality.
Green.
See the rest.
Women's Equality, Working Families.
Parties.
What a joke. What a joke. Where is he? He's...
Unreal.
Oh, okay. It's kind of cut off where I have it printed. Where is it? You can see Mark's name on the bottoms here, but they're all kind of
Mark.
We know who it is, though.
Yeah, you know. But yeah, what did Skanky Susie tell you once before, Jenny?
Oh no, that's not the lady's name.
Oh my God.
That is not her name.
Oh my God.
Right. She's called me just as many names, and she's thrown a water bottle at Jenny. So I've got
No, she threw it at the bartender because I was in the room.
If
she would have thrown a bottle of water at me, I would have filed a police report.
That's right.
Jenny is out of control. I need you to have an adult timeout for 2 seconds. You're just out of control.
Well, no, it's true. I mean, you can't throw fluids at me.
Let me try this. It's going to really hurt, but let me try this. Wait. What did Susan Berland, oh God, it just feels weird saying that, say to you about cross endorsements? All you need is how many?
Got to count to 3.
I've got to count to 3. Oh,
but you got to count to 3. She says that in regards to, which she is right, town board, you got to be able to count to 3. You're not going to get anything to pass without 3 votes. But you got to count to 3. You get 3 lines, including a major line, either the Republican line or the Democrat line, the Independence line, which now we know anybody can get, and one of the other ones, you win. You win. Mm-hmm. That's it. It's about math.
Yep, and Susie's really good at math.
The people that don't vote make me angry. The people that just let it go by make me angry. The corruption makes me angry.
Me too.
The people that when it comes to term limits, I don't really have a way either yay or nay with term limits. This is my thought process. If you're working and you're working for the community and it works, great. But if you're 95 and you're still trying to do, then, I mean, come on. Like, if you've been in the office since you were like 20 and now you're going on 75, it's time to go. I mean, you got to pass the baton. But when you're just doing things that are not beneficial at all, it's time for, the people really need to get together and be like, that's it. Enough.
You mean like Tony Teep, the leader of the Republican Party, who's been involved in politics since I was in diapers?
Oh my God. I can't. I mean, I have to be very very careful of what I say about the Republicans, because I did have
you didn't say it, I said it.
No, I had to be careful how I respond, because I did have a few people come into my inbox and politely try to intimidate me on the things that I say against the Republican Party, which BTW, PSA, it's not a good idea to try to intimidate me, because it's just going to fuel my fire that you have the audacity to even come in here and say anything to me at all. I mean, if we're going to talk about politics, let's talk about politics. But if you're going to come in here and start throwing lawsuits and, we can bring you up on, get a grip. You're not dealing with, somebody with a high school diploma. No offense to other people. I have a lot of education. I pretty much know the laws. So please save yourself the embarrassment and save myself the paperwork, because I will definitely slap you back with a lawsuit and I will see it through. So I have to be careful when I respond to this question. But in regards to the Republican Party, indeed, that representation needs to be amended on many levels. And I don't think that it is. And I always hear about people, I always hear about Tracy Edwards and her family that is on payroll or whatever the case may be. The Republicans are so intertwined with each other, whether it's somebody's mother and son, aunt and uncle, cousin, whatever the case may be. So when you point out one politician that may have family members on payroll, you need to bring up everybody. And the Republican Party, now they wear that hat proudly, because look at who we have, that are already related, that it's open in the public, So,
and Dina, I know you don't like the guy, but the only person we didn't mention that's also running is Michael Raspentini. And I got to tell you, he's the only one talking about ending the corruption. And I believe
he will be at the Elwood.
He is willing to break people's fingers over it.
He'll be at the Meet the Candidate tomorrow night.
He didn't really do that, but I heard the whole story on that. Somebody dug up the original article. The mailman was grabbing the papers from him and got his finger stuck in the metal box and broke his finger. And he blamed him for doing it when it happened, but there was no charges after that. But he's the only one that is talking about ending the corruption and isn't playing the typical political game. So I'm going to give that at least to him, because he is in the race. And I know you don't like his personality, Dana, but it's not a personality.
With him, I mean, if you have a checkerboard like that, a checkered path like that, I'm going to make sure I come after you full way. He actually had 3 signs up on Pigeon Hill Road on my friend's property, and I had to go to her house and tell her the story of his background. And I'm asking her, "Are you out of your mind?" And she politely took them down. Then I was over there near Rainbow Chimes, and he had like it was a whole row. I'm saying row. It was a whole avenue, and he had like every other house. I'm very outspoken, so if somebody's outside, I'm like, do you know what this guy does? And you want to vote for him? And then they tell me, oh, they just come by and they give me the paper and they say, can I stick it there? And I say yes. And I'm like, so if Hitler came here and said, can I stick, that we're going to kill everybody, you're going to say yes? And it's always like, no, it wouldn't be like that. That's how it is, though.
That's how it is.
So, I mean, it's
think about you got mine. I have a monitor now that I have to a little in-home monitor, but it's okay. I'm having a good day.
It's a lot.
The lawn signs are definitely driving me batty. They're illegally placed. Lawn signs belong on lawns and nowhere else. They don't belong on the street. They don't belong in front of the schools. They don't belong anywhere they don't belong. They're lawn signs. I took a couple of pictures. The Republicans got theirs upside down.
I saw that. I couldn't believe that. That was very strange.
I don't understand. And then they have it like in clusters everywhere. So people are just going to be like, what? Because I've seen it.
They go out at 2:00 in the morning and they put them up, and then they pull the other person's sign down and they put it on the ground. They're littering. I got to tell you, if they weren't the ones making the laws, we really need to go to town hall. And somebody actually told me the law is already on the books, but not enforced. But they need to find these campaigns that have signs that you're able to prove that is on public property. And eventually they will stop.
Yeah, but nobody's going to, somebody will always pay somebody hush money with that. And nobody's going to ever really enforce that. I wholeheartedly believe that, because that's just the name of the game when it comes to politics. I don't think anybody's ever going to be able to change that. And the lawn signs, I've seen lawn signs on the highway. And you're going towards another county. What are you doing?
We're just one hurricane away from having the problem solved for us.
I'm driving and we're on the northern state. And my son, my 13-year-old's like, Mom, why is that sign there? And I'm like, I don't know, because we're going into Nassau. I don't know if it crosses over, hon, but I don't think so. So it's always interesting with those lawn signs. I
saw never Parkway signs tonight.
Yeah,
on my way home.
What is going on?
Brainwashing
I know.
the people.
I did. And one last thing I wanted to say in regards to the local campaign and the local ads. One thing that I will say that I admire about both I'll say his name even though I'm very disappointed in him. Chad Lupinacci and Tracy Edwards, when they run their signs, when they run their ads, they haven't done anything derogatory. They stick to the facts, because I remember that last run they had with it. It was just crazy. And it just made people so disgusted that people just turned it off. It was just disgusting.
Yeah.
One thing I'll say about both candidates, they have managed to, so far, keep it just, this is what I'm doing, this is what I've done, this is what I propose to do, this is what I've done, and this is how I embrace the community. And I have to give them props, both Chad Lupinacci and Tracy Edwards, for sticking to that, because it allows us to look just at the facts and not get into all the other craziness that some of their counterparts definitely partake in.
I think the only viciousness we've seen so far is the destruction of that person's property this weekend, of taking down the Mark Cuthbertson sign off the truck. Because that was trespassing, number one, and number two, destruction of property. But they destroyed it. Like,
there's no video cameras?
And those are like
I
hope they pursue it. Those things are like $1,000 each to mat.
Yeah. A lot of money there.
I think that's so foolish. Like, why, it makes you wonder, like, what do you don't have anything else to do with your time than to wait till the middle of the night and go take down a sign?
But these are the people who support Mark Cuthbertson. They're like the mafia. They're brutal. They're disgusting. They are. I'm sorry, but somebody who's going to take a knife to a canvas, and you're going to tell me that that's a mentally sane human being?
Yeah. No, I agree with you.
What is Marky intimidated? Can't run on facts? Can't run on what he's really done?
Can't take criticism.
Please.
Yeah, that's just but regardless, to destroy that's just, it shows poor sportsmanship, and people take that into consideration.
But like, even my whole point with the lawn signs is you basically have shown you have no control over your own campaign either, that you can't get them to abide the laws that you govern. So if you can't get them to abide the laws that you govern within your own campaign, no wonder we have such piss poor leadership everywhere, because they can't even control that.
That's a good point. That's an excellent point, because they are definitely, the lawn signs are out of control. If you go down Melville Road, you'll see one house, they have like Chad Lupinacci signs, like I think it's either 3 or 4 for one house. You want to talk about overkill? I mean,
well, I think people should be able to do whatever they want with their own house, on their lawns. I don't care if you make a corn maze out of your lawn signs on your lawn, but when it's all over public property and it's in front of the schools, I take great offense to that.
And the parkways.
It becomes litter.
I think all of the signs is too much. I'm sorry. I just think it's all too much. When
Public safety, Lisa. Public safety drives around and collects the lawn signs every day. We pay public safety to pick up the litter that our politicians are putting out there.
Right.
How about public safety?
Whose litter are they picking up? Because usually it's just one candidate over another.
How about public safety does what it's supposed to do, keep the public safe? I mean, what about that? I'm not sure if line signs are attacking people, but it could be. I don't know. These things are crazy out here.
Yeah.
It just never amazes me. So,
all right, ladies.
It's a good show. Very good show.
We're gonna let everyone know that we're going to try to come back every Tuesday for you at 9:45. We are a show. We're not a tweet. We try to give you at least an hour of great conversation. We're sorry that Lori was unable to join us tonight. But if you ladies have any final thoughts before we say goodnight.
I need an aspirin. I really do. I have a headache.
I did appreciate the information that Kathy gave us, because I was totally uninformed about that, the unconstitutional and the voting. So I did appreciate that. And I do appreciate Jenny breaking down the civics, because I was totally lost. I didn't understand what civic was where, who was what, because I keep hearing all these civics, and I'm like, well, where are all these civics when these kids were dying? Where are all these civics when all the gangs were going on? Where are all the civics when all this drug was going on? Because I don't recall seeing any of them anywhere.
They show up for elections.
Yeah, so that's why I needed clarification. So I appreciate that. So I always learn something though at every episode we have.
I hope other people found something of value this evening. So on that note, I hope everyone enjoys the Huntington View, and we hope to see everyone next week.
See you next Tuesday.
See you next Tuesday, guys. Bye-bye.
Good night, ladies.
Good night.